for let everybody know.
All right, well, let's get started with tonight's presentation. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us here in person and at home. My name is Ann Sampson-Roach. I'm a family wellbeing counselor here at the MFRC, and I'll be co-hosting tonight's program along with my colleague, Melissa Clark. We'll begin with Jesse's presentation tonight, and then hear several stories from military members who will share their experience being an ally. We'll also have a Q&A later in the program where Jesse will be happy to answer any questions that you may have about his presentation. We ask that you please do not disclose any personal information regarding your own personal circumstances during the Q&A. And next week, we'll be happy to send all of you the information that we're presenting this evening, and also contact information for Melissa and I if you have any follow-up questions.
So I'm Melissa Clark. I'm one of the military family navigators attached to the mental health and wellbeing team. So just a little about me. So I've been with the organization for 13 years. I have a large background from military families, from being an Army brat myself to being an ex-Navy wife. My current partner is a veteran, and my stepson is now Army as well. It's kind of been my entire life. And being part of inclusion and diversity has always been a passion of mine, so I love being a part of this as well. Just a little housekeeping for those of us who are here in the building. The washrooms are out the door to the right. You'll see a male and female. You go straight down the hall, turn right, down a little bit. There's accessible washrooms down there if you need those. And as always, if you need to take a break or anything like that, please feel free to move around as you need to. And I think we're good to go.
Great. Okay, thanks, Melissa. So we're really excited to have all of you join us this evening and learn a lot about allyship and how we can be a healthy ally to others. We're pleased to welcome this wonderful presenter, Jesse Nervais. Jesse is a military family member who has graciously collaborated with Melissa and I to provide this wonderful presentation to all of you. Jesse is a life skills facilitator, fundraising coordinator, motivational speaker, and activist currently based here in Halifax. In 2021, he founded Dreadlocks and Kindness, an organization that seeks to empower others through inclusive, focused education, fundraising, mentorship, and community collaborations. And his recent success was a coordinator behind the 2021-2022 Stonehurst Bakery Rainbow Bagel campaign, where over 11,000 rainbow bagels were sold throughout HRM during this fundraiser, which proudly supported both the Youth Project and the Rainbow Refugee Association of Nova Scotia. For the past decade, Jesse has worked professionally across multiple industries, including music performance and education, tourism, and food and beverage. His recent focus has been on youth and youth adult mentorship and career counseling as the youth navigator for the EDGE program with Metro Works. In 2022, he was invited once again to collaborate with Halifax Public Libraries, featuring his Impassioned Wellness series, Conversations of Empowerment, tackling themes of self-love, anti-racism, mental health, and allyship. Known for his innovative style and passion for problem solving, he is an active advocate for diversity, inclusion, and the wellness of others. Jesse is an alumnus from the University of Lethbridge and has relocated to Nova Scotia in 2015. So without further ado, the MFRC is very, very pleased to present Jesse Nervais.
Thank you so much, Anne. I am beyond delighted to be here this evening. It's been a conversation in the works for a couple months now. I'm just so pleased to see the event come together. I'm so glad that people came. Thank you to those in the room. Thank you to those in the digital universe. Thank you to those watching this later in the future. I'm so happy to share with you what I have learned about what allyship looks like, what it sounds like, and how we can better help spread kindness to those around us. Okay. I'm particularly grateful to the HRLFC. It struck me earlier today as I was working on my presentation and giving me my final notes, the significance of this moment for myself. It is rare in the work that I do to be able to present in the fullness of my sectionality, not sexuality, intersectionality, being both a first-generation immigrant to Canada, being Black, being gay, being part of a military family. I've never been able to speak at an event and speak to all of those groups. And I get to do that here. And to be on the Canadian military base doing that is very significant and very meaningful. So a huge thank you and a round of applause for the MFRC. Yeah. Just before going further, I just want to make sure that everyone in the chat can hear me. Everyone here can hear me? Yes?
Thumbs up, yeah.
That's great, excellent. Okay. So, I'd like to invite everyone to check in. Come with me now. You figured out dinner, you found parking. The dogs are fine, the kids are fine. We are here now. The notifications have stopped on our phone. We've landed. And I just am so glad to take a moment to do that because it's so easy to be distracted and to carry our overwhelm for the day into an evening talk. But you know what? We made it. And I'm so happy for that.
Wrong way, my bad.
At this time, I'd like to read a land acknowledgement, custom written from a local artist who I regularly collaborate with, Sam Guan, the artist. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and ceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which the Mi'kmaq and Nausik peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1725. The treaties did not deal with the surrender of lands or resources, but in fact recognized the Mi'kmaq and Nausik title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. We strive for respectful partnerships with all the peoples of this province as we search for collective healing and true reconciliation as we honor this beautiful land together. As we head into this subject of allyship, I wanted to give us some quotes to think about, because I'm pretty sure a lot of you, or a lot of us, have not heard the word allyship. We've heard the word ally before, and we know what it is to be an ally. We've heard the word leadership, and from leader, think of that connection. Okay? And in that regard, I'd like to start with two quotes. The first being from Dr. Maya Angelou. I have learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I'd also like to start with this quote from Desmond Tutu. If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. And perhaps my favorite one of all, a graphic comic by the artist Ekyo. To make a difference in someone's life, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to care. So, without further ado, how to be an ally. The first step in allyship is celebrating diversity. And for the next couple slides, I'm going to go over a couple key terms I'm sure many of you have heard. It comes around every year, it seems, at Pride, reminders of this. But sometimes it's just helpful to make sure we're using the same understanding around the same words and language. So, starting with the key term diversity. Diversity is the concept that encompasses acceptance and respect. It means understanding that each individual is unique and recognizing those individual differences. These differences can be along the dimensions of race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, age, physical ability, religious belief, political beliefs, other ideologies, and so much more. Inclusion. The practice or policy of providing equal access to opportunities and resources for people who might otherwise be excluded. There's a level of intentionality with inclusion. To be inclusive by design is something we will see and discuss a little bit later today. Wrapping these two concepts together, diversity is being sure everyone gets invited to the party, but inclusion is being asked to dance. There are two other important terms I wanted to introduce and remind folks about: equality and equity. Equality is giving everyone the exact same thing. And when we think about treating people fairly, treating everyone the same, seems like the perfect way to go. However, fairness only works, especially when we look at equality. Fairness, it works only when everyone starts from the same place. And we know, unfortunately, that with our histories around the world, not everyone started in the same place. So in addition to the idea of equality, I'd like to remind and empower folks with the principle of equity, which is giving everyone what they need to achieve the exact same thing, the exact same. And that means functionally what you may see and what that looks like and sounds like may not at first seem fair, because it looks different than what someone else is having access to. So here's a great visual, though, to wrap these two together. Equality is giving everyone a shoe, but equity is giving everyone a shoe that fits. So why this workshop? Why are we all here to learn more about the topic of allyship? The reality is, we live in a big, wide, and beautiful world, and in it there is someone who is different from you in some way. This is something you are going to encounter. But just because someone is different from you does not mean that there is any reason why you cannot be the reason somebody smiles today. At the core of this workshop, there are two principles: learning how to navigate those differences in a positive and respectful way, and learning what we can do to support others. Allyship, to me, can be summed up most perfectly in this comment. Be kind. Everyone is fighting their own battles. Why would I be kind? I will be brutal and relentless and ride into battle by their side. So let's talk about allyship. I define it quite simply. Allyship is the everyday kindness of ordinary people. People who choose to make the world a better place, right where they are, by listening and acting in support of others. Allyship is a choice to listen, to learn, and to act in solidarity, to support others in your community who may not look like you. At first glance, these two comments look the same. But to me, they side by side, they totally explain and show how allyship empowers others. Here we have the yellow dragon choosing to be an ally to the blue. But in the second frame, the blue dragon is now empowered to be an ally to the pink. Allyship empowers others. No matter how small the action, if the intent is there and the impact follows through, it does make a difference. So how can we be allies? Well, part of being an ally is flexing what you already have and making a point to use it in a way that can empower others. Flexing what you have to stand with others, be that a skill, a resource, or a privilege. Now, a quick note about privilege, because it's too easily wrapped up into other arguments or mindsets or misconceptions about what that means when we first hear that word. Okay? I define privilege quite simply. Privilege is exactly what is not happening to you. Okay? Privilege is exactly what is not happening to you. Privilege does not mean that you have not had struggle. It does not mean that you've had an easy life. Privilege in this context simply is the recognition that in your daily life and in your lived experience, there are barriers others face that are simply not on your radar. They don't affect you, the outcomes don't affect you, you're simply unaware of what is happening. The first step of allyship then is recognizing what forms of privilege we have. What is not happening to us that is happening to somebody else? And how can we help them? How can we be an ally? How can we be a blessing to somebody? For example, just as we're absorbing this idea of privilege, if you went through the world today and the difference between a doorknob and a door handle did not even cross your mind, that is a privilege. because I promise you that crossed someone's mind today. Their ability to get through a portal in real world time was affected by this differential. If the difference between the location of stairs or if there's a ramp has not crossed your mind in any of your travels recently, that is the privilege because it matters tremendously to someone else. Not being aware of this doesn't make you a terrible person, but being aware of it allows you to do something special, which is to be inclusive by design. I'll draw your attention to this set of stairs. It's a rather unusual set of stairs, but it's the greatest example, I think, in a simple way to talk about what is inclusiveness by design. The city makers here looked at this and said, let's make sure everyone has access to the top of this. The stairs are there for anyone who wants to walk up. The ramp is there for anyone who needs that access. The irony to me that I think, or at least what's not realized enough, is that when you're inclusive by design, it empowers you as well. Anyone who has been in a position of having to move something heavy is grateful for a ramp. Right? If all of a sudden you have an injury and you're on cast, you are grateful for a ramp. If all of a sudden you're babysitting or in charge of a stroller, you are grateful for the ramp, right? When someone or a decision is being inclusive by design, everybody benefits. That being said, allyship only works if what you're doing is helping, right? And the difference there is so often realized in our intent versus the impact. What we meant or what we tried to do when we were hoping to be an ally does not really matter if the impact is negatively affecting the person or demographic. At this point, I'd like to share the hilarious story of my experience with this exact principle. We can go back.
Go back.
Yeah. When I think of allyship, I think of going to the beach. More specifically, I think going to the beach with my white friends. In 2021, I went to the beach with a group of friends, and my friend, brother, David, was coming, and I didn't tell him we were going to the beach because I thought it'd be a wonderful surprise. And it was because the beach is great. Except I didn't tell him, so he was not prepared for what was about to happen. He did not have a swimsuit. He did not have the things he would have brought to go to the beach. Just by not sharing the context of what the evening was going to entail, or the afternoon, I should say, led to a very different experience. This was then particularly highlighted by the somewhat hilarious record scratch moment as we were all setting up at the beach. There's 20 of us, music's going, we're off to the races, and a voice pipes up, did anyone pack sunscreen? And it was at that moment we realized David was the only white person with us at this event. And it was sort of surreal for me because I am so often the only Black person in a certain setting or environment. I am in this room right now, right? But in this context and in this moment, David was the only white person. We're all at the beach, we're all friends, but none of us packed sunscreen because none of us had ever sunburned. The 20 of us there, no one packed sunscreen because never sunburned. Did not even cross our minds to pack it. This taught me a very valuable lesson. If two people who love each other can have a different relationship with the sun, two people who love each other can have a very different experience walking through life. Whether that's dealing with the grocery store, going to school, navigating a police stop. Once I learned of this moment, I took it upon myself to be an ally to my white friends going to the beach. I was like, I can do this. I was so excited. I went to Walmart I saw the display of sunscreen. I thought, yes, I am here. I grabbed the bottle, threw it in the trunk, off we go. And lo and behold, 2 weeks later, I'm back at that same beach with a different friend, Danielle, who was also white. And on the way, you should stop, I need to grab sunscreen. And I swelled with pride. I was like, I am here to be an ally. I already have sunscreen. She's like, really? I was like, yes. She's like, okay, great. And we got to the beach and it was wonderful. We were all set up. She asked me for the sunscreen and I gave her the bottle and watched as her face just completely fell. See, it turns out the brand of sunscreen, well, they also make bug spray.
No.
And I didn't read the bottle because I wasn't going to use it because the outcome of it did not apply to me. I didn't even consider it. And that moment went, oh, this is a very different impact from what I intended. It reminded me of my little brother, Ben, who is celiac. And he was coming over and I was like, don't worry, I got a bunch of food that's gluten-free, I got you. And he's like, oh, that's really sweet. I said, yeah, I got you. Don't worry about it, don't bring anything. Except I didn't ask him what it would taste like. And because I'm not celiac and I'm not going to eat this, I just read it to make sure it was gluten-free. Except I chose the food that tastes like cardboard. This is the difference between intent and your impact if you choose to be an ally. The irony of this journey for me is that I'm very particular and intentional about making sure I have sunscreen when I go to the beach, making sure I have those things. Most importantly, because my nephew is a child and he is white and he will sunburn. And when we're at the beach and I am his temporary guardian, I have a responsibility to look after him and make sure he will be okay. Even though from childhood to my current experience, I have never experienced sunburn. We don't need to wait until the people we love are literally burning to consider what we can do to empower others, what we can do to support them. Don't wait for an opportunity, create it. That's the intentionality part. And be mindful about it. Make sure it's going to work out. Make sure the impact is going to be there. Allyship only works if what you're doing is helping. And an important piece then to make sure that the impact is actually helpful is to make sure your actions to help are being informed by the person you are helping or by the community you wish to help. If I had asked Ben what are his brands of gluten-free food that he loves, the impact would have landed perfect. There are two pieces here that I want to bring our attention to. It is one thing to then be intentional about our actions so that we are impacting folks in a positive way. What we are doing is something we heard them say would help us, not a feeling we had. All right. But it's another thing to be seen helping for the sake of being seen helping. This is performative allyship. This I like to describe as your intention is kind of there. You feel like it's important or you see that it's a trend. And this comes up quite a bit with Pride Month. Folks wanting to help, but kind of like, I'm not sure, I don't want to deal with backlash. And my recommendation is either commit to being helpful or don't, right? This waffling at about 60% is actually not helpful. If you went to a restaurant and ordered something and they brought you 60% of what should be on that plate, you would flip the table and leave. Nobody wants 60% of a sandwich. No one wants 60% of your allyship. As well, be intentional about how you are helping. I'd like to draw our attention to the comment. I made this. I have taken your work and modified it with minimal effort. Well, can I get some credit? No. And we see this happen all the time, in subtle ways, but definitely in a way that most noticeably impacts people of color. Considering, for example, TikTok and all the dances that go viral, that we're not crediting the Black dance instructors who founded them. So much so that Jimmy Fallon made a point to invite those creators onto his show after having featured the same dances earlier, recognizing the mistake of not crediting the source. Okay? You also do not realize the significance of someone's dress, someone's instruments that you see, drums, memorabilia, artwork, that resonates at a different level, scriptures as well, that resonate for that community and for those people with great significance. If you aren't taking the time to learn about that, you could very easily be disrespecting something that's very sacred and valuable and meaningful to somebody else. So now that we've talked about the difference between intent and impact, let's talk about the 5 main tips for how to be an ally, 2 of which we've already covered. Understand your privilege, listen, and do your homework. Is what you are doing actually going to be helpful? Is it informed by the group or person you are hoping to help? Once you have learned how to be helpful, once you understand what that person is experiencing, make a point to speak up, to speak out, and to share that. I had not learned this about sunscreen and bug spray in the same brand. And now, hilariously, it has been almost 8 minutes of my presentation talking about this. Okay? Echo and amplify, but don't take credit for it and don't dismiss where that advice is coming. Make sure you are celebrating and centering the voice who is informing you on how to be an ally. Recognize that you're going to make mistakes. You're going to get it wrong. That's just going to happen. Okay? But mistakes happen to everyone. You are not special because you made a mistake. So what is important then is that you are learning from it. If someone corrects you or says, we don't use that language anymore, for example, your moments there is not to start talking about what your intent was. Well, I didn't mean to say it like that. Or it's like, we know you didn't mean to say it like that, right? We are offering you a moment to learn from us how to do it differently. Conversely, and this is for members of all the communities who are having someone be an ally to them, imperfect friends do not equal enemies. When someone gets it wrong, it is not helpful for us to land-base them and to go scorched earth. Nobody learns in that scenario. No one feels empowered to try again, to be an ally. Most importantly though, allyship is an action. I'm so grateful so many folks have taken the time to be here. But if you listen to me now and then do nothing of this, you've not actually been an ally. You're not actively doing it. So let's talk about some strategies that can be helpful. Things you can do on your own. Number 1, take a moment to learn about other cultures, their histories and struggles and experience. Don't rely on your one Black friend or whatever happened to tell you about what is going on in their life, what negative things are happening, and what you can do to be an ally to them. Take advantage instead of when there are moments to learn that are in community. Pride is a festival across 10 days with with speaking engagements, teachings, lots of chats to learn how to support the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. Black History Month is a chance to learn more about the Black community in your area. Learn more about, quote, Black history. So to Tia Upshaw's point, founder of Black Women of Excellence, we're Black 365. It doesn't just turn on and turn off in September. So maybe you want to consider having one of us come and speak to your school, to your organization, to your business, during a time of the year that is not February. I'll also add at this moment that there's sometimes some false dichotomies of us versus them set up around time periods of the year that we recognize differently. This is a lie and is not helping in any way. Yes, historically, June is Pride Month. President Clinton at the time made that so. It's echoed and recognized it around the world. June is also Men's Mental Health Month. And these sorts of things happen because there are only 12 months. You're gonna have doubles of events at the same time. That does not mean one is now more important than the other. In fact, it's even greater an opportunity to amplify and echo attention to both issues. Christmas and Kwanzaa both take place in December. One of those is a week, one of them is 7 days. They aren't fighting. They're simply celebrated as part of the holiday season. Strategy number 2, make friends with people from other groups. That friendship will teach you so much more than anything else will. The chance to see and hear in real time from their experience, what is happening firsthand, and how you can be an ally. Take a stand when groups face unjust treatment. Call it out when you see it. Make it a point to engage. If the outcome will not affect you, that is the privilege. You have an opportunity to engage. Number 4, help bring isolated voices and marginalized groups into the center of your stage. I am in the center of the MFRC stage in this moment. An opportunity was created for me to help and engage, and I'm so grateful for that. Promote leadership and opportunities to train those who don't occupy traditional leadership roles. It's so meaningful, and we'll hear from the military voices today to see that, to see themselves reflected in different settings. I would also add that mentorship is just as important. Don't give someone a title if you're not sure that they will be able to handle the responsibility. Create a moment, an opportunity for them to learn, to shadow over that period of time. That experience is so valuable. Train others to be allies. Now that you've learned something, share it. In doing so, you will be an ally. More specifically, you will be in places, in rooms, and groups and settings with friends where you hear different groups of people talk together, and you were able to be an ally and share it. But in order to do that, you have to listen. And a huge part of that is trusting and hearing from people's experience. What is it that they are hoping can happen as an ally? To make a difference in someone's life, you don't have to be perfect, you just have to care. To that point, we're here at the MFRC. I'm so excited to share 4 different stories and voices of allyship from service members, past and present, and what that has looked like and sounded like to them. Starting now with Samir Lukela. Allyship to me is taking the time to understand what other people are going through and what you can do to help. I've been a part of it and understand what it's like to be in the Canadian Armed Forces, as well as to be outside of it and to see other members going through military life. A lot of times civilian businesses and organizations don't understand what we go through. We can't always make regular timelines and we don't always have access to the internet. I know a lot of people who get frustrated trying to manage bills, personal duties, planning for things in the future while being at sea. It is oftentimes difficult to have regular communication with your family at home, as well as being difficult to be a part of that family's life when you are so distant. When I transitioned from working in the Navy to working in real estate, I saw a way to help military folks looking to either buy their first home or having to relocate, as we so often get posted away from Halifax or brought back to the province. I'm proud of the years that I served in the Navy, and I'm proud to continue supporting my old brothers in arms when it comes to figuring out those first steps of buying and selling their homes. I can relate with them. I understand how stressful life can be. I know that buying and selling a house is very stressful. That is the reason why I take pride in making this process as stress-free as possible for them, so they can stay focused on their families and stay focused on their missions. Samir Lukela, Sailor First Class, Canadian Armed Forces, Navy, retired, 11 years of service. And for anyone who's interested or knows of someone who's looking to buy a home, they can move with Samir. I just wanted to plug. I'd like to share the story now of my brother, Jonathan Nervais. When I think of allies in the Navy, I think about all of the awesome guys I've worked with who've had my back. Some people just have an attitude when they see a new black guy on ship, and it's frustrating, because sometimes you feel like you can't say something. I don't want to be seen as someone playing the race card, but I also can't help but notice how rare it is to see other staff and other officers who look like them. So it means a lot when someone points out they see it too, or they've overheard something and say, I can vouch for you. I just make a point to be the best that I can, and I'm grateful to the guys who encourage me to keep going and let me know that I am welcome here. Jonathan Nervais, Master Sailor, Canadian Armed Forces Navy, active, 10 years of service today. I have to say, I loved getting the feedback as I asked these friends of mine to share their voice, but I did burst out laughing at Mo's directness, who I love and so appreciate. Bro, being an ally just means calling shit out when you see it. It's not funny all the time. It's not a joke all the time. Just because it's not happening to you now doesn't mean it won't. If it's racist, or whatever type of discrimination. You don't have to be a hero, just don't let it fly when it's around. Mo Elha, Master Sailor, Canadian Armed Forces, Navy, retired, 14 years of service. And finally tonight, I'd like to share Megan Townsend. It is so important that those in minority groups can see themselves in a place of success. I spent 10 years in the Navy, and only once did I experience a female commanding officer. I remember specifically a time when I put in for 3 days of leave to celebrate after my upcoming wedding. She approached me on the brow one day and mentioned that she didn't want me to use my personal vacation day for such a happy occasion. Personally changed them to CO days. Does anyone know what a CO day means?
It's like a short day.
Okay, all right. I forgot to ask that.
The commanding officer gives you a day off with family.
Okay,
Related.
awesome. This moment stuck out to me and directly shaped the kind of leader I wanted to become. She was strong, confident, and competent. She was a strong, confident, and competent woman who led with humanity for her sailors rather than by brute strength. That is what my leadership philosophy moving forward was. I wanted to take care of my sailors too. I could do that without appearing weak or easily taken advantage of, and I knew that because I had seen it with my own eyes. Megan Townsend, Master Sailor, Canadian Armed Forces, Naval Fleet School, Atlantic, 10 years of service. Don't doubt the difference that you can make in the lives of those around you. You share your space, your home, your workplace, your school. If you think you are too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. I'd like to celebrate as we close a couple folks locally here, for those of us here in Halifax and HRM, who are helping me be an ally. Everyone, meet Dane Bo. What you are witnessing is the gloriousness and collaboration with Joy and Selena, members of Dreadlock and Kindness, and our work in bringing Dane Bo to life. A vegan rainbow bagel. In 2021, we partnered with Soha Bakery, who made a commitment to donate 25% of their sales from the Rainbow Bagels to support the Youth Project and the Rainbow Refugee Association of Nova Scotia. We have sold well more than 11,000 or 10,000 Rainbow Bagels today. And I am so proud of seeing how the community has seen this opportunity to engage and support it. And for those of you wondering what those members are, Dreadlocks and Kindness, Stoneheart Bakery. They make the bagels, I talk about them and plug them in settings like this, but we also need community partners to help solve them. Peace for Teeth has been fantastic behind us all the way. as well as the local ampersand cafes in the Halifax Central Library. So grateful for their support, but also the local cafes around the city and the folks who've taken the time to just make an order for themselves, whether to donate to a local food bank, to friends, a party gift. Somebody ordered a batch of bagels for their wedding brunch. I was here for it. It was great. So lovely to see. Okay, and the recipients who we are supporting, youth project here, helping our local community in Nova Scotia, and the Rainbow Refugee Association of Nova Scotia, helping others in the world. At this point in time, you're like, Jesse, this was great, but now we're getting to the end of it. What now? So a couple things for you to think about. Some recommended resources for reading. I have the copy here as well. Book of Allies. This is a collection of 17 different authors, all of whom work with young adults. Okay, full disclosure, I have not finished reading it to beginning to end, but I know enough of the authors in it and have read some of them that I fully support this. I really enjoyed the journey so far. Okay. What I love about this is how many different voices you hear. Rather. Local author, Kate Webb, who I will be speaking with in July, has produced what I have found to be perhaps the most moving and helpful book to explain allyship to kids. If you have a family member and you're wondering about a gift for someone with kids, I cannot recommend this enough. It is short and impactful, and the first thing I said was more adults will learn from this book than kids. Cannot recommend it. For those of you at home and would like to be an ally and learn from the couch, 2 movies I'd highly recommend. Disclaimer for their ratings, but I love them both and they are so funny. Cannot recommend Pride enough. The story about how the Gay Liberation Front, going back 50 years, in Britain supported the miners during the strike, and the allyship that was then displayed to them as a community at the end. If you want a feel-good story, cannot recommend this enough.
know what that streamed on?
I personally watched it on Netflix. I'm not sure if it's 10 yet. Another local story about allyship is There's Something in the Water, addressing the water, excuse me, the water quality here in Nova Scotia that was directly affecting members of the Indigenous and Black community in a negative way. And one of the driving forces behind that was the actor Elliot Page. At this point, I'd like to highlight as well two events that are coming up for me with Dreadlocks of Kindness, for those of you who are on the South Shore. So I'm happy to give this presentation as well elsewhere. Life lessons from a Rubik's Cube at the Blue Zone Wellness Center in Lunenburg, as well as a book reading with Kate Lum of Pride and Joy at Blockshot Books in Lunenburg. As we come to the end and head into the Q&A, I'd like to read to you both a quote, both of you, digital and real, a quote from Dr. Maya Angelou in her OWN, O Network Master Series talk with Oprah. Imagine, I have had so many rainbows in my clouds. I've had a lot of clouds, but I've had so many rainbows. And one of the things I do when I step on the stage, when I stand up to a movie, when I stand up to translate, when I go to teach my classes, when I go to direct a movie, I bring everyone who has ever been kind to me with me. Black, white, Asian, Spanish-speaking, Native American, gay, straight, everybody. I say, come with me. I'm going onto the stage. Come with me. I need you now. Some long dead. So I don't ever feel I have no help. I've had rainbows in my class. And the thing to do, it seems to me, is to prepare yourself so you can see a rainbow in someone else's class. Someone who may not look like you, may not call God, the same name you call God, if they call God at all. May not eat the same dishes prepared the way you do. May not dance your dances. or speak your language, but be a blessing to someone. At this point, I'll be segueing over to our Q&A, and I'm happy to take questions from the chat and from the room. I do promise to address them in some way. However, depending on the nature or the phrasing, I may choose not to speak to that issue, and I will make it clear why when I do. Any questions? Aaron.
So you mentioned in your presentation that we should really commit to being an ally or not commit.
Mhm.
It has to be one or the other.
Mhm.
So if I heard a microaggression happen,
Mhm.
what's the best way for me to address that?
Was this a microaggression that happened to somebody?
Yes,
To a
if I
person.
heard a microaggression against someone else, very subtly, what
Very
could I do to be a good ally to that person?
Great. Tell that person you heard it too. Don't speak for that person and then go to management or to other leadership and say, this is the thing that's happened. They may not have the energy or bandwidth to address that, to want to engage with it, right? Maybe it's something that they've already had an intention about how they want it to happen. However, by telling them, I am here to support you, I'm here to verify that you are telling the truth, you are giving them credence and credibility to then go, and perhaps even the confidence to speak up. Anyone else?
I have a question. So, taking the lead from Melissa, I'm going to be kind of moving forward with the EDI strategies.
Okay.
And for me, obviously, the first step is when you create a committee. But in order to say we're diverse or to represent diversity, one has to be diverse. If you do not have a diverse community within your organization, how do you address that? Do you bring people out from the community, like external?
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Okay.
Yeah, if your board or your staff team does not have that diversity already a part of it, reach out into the community to the leaders who are part of those communities and ask them, how can we make our space more diverse? What can we do to help? Now, there's two things I want to add to this, right? If you're bringing someone in to consult, respect their time, value their time, pay them for their time, okay? One of the things that's come up in conversations with other folks who engage in the work that I do in community is this assumption that we just have endless means and energy to do this, right? That is not the case. Okay? It's a great way to reach out and support a specific organization as well, to consider. Any other questions?
Is there any questions from those in Zoom? If you like, you can unmute or you can put it in the chat.
Looks like there's a little two down at the bottom there. Is that for the chat?
Yeah, those.
It is, but it was just people engaging earlier. Yeah, no.
I have a question. Oh,
I
go
just
ahead.
have a comment, a question, just a comment, from what I've experienced, like, I'm Air Force, the military over Shearwaters, but, I would say our section, I guess, but it's more like the building. We have a space called Positive Space. It sort of reminds me of this.
Yeah.
I have to be honest, I never heard of allyship before, so this is all new to me, but yeah, it relates a lot like that. And
I'm so glad you brought up the issue of spaces because we all exist in space, but just like what I was talking about earlier with the beach, we don't necessarily exist and have the same experience in space. So I cannot stress this enough that if you are in a position of leadership or management, you have a duty and responsibility to manage and set the tone for what that space will be. Okay? Zero tolerance for actions of bullying and discrimination. It cannot just be something that comes up when trauma or conflict arises, right? If some diversity and inclusion is something that you wish to see happen and you want to see included and you want to make a point of it, it should be reflected in your space. Artwork exists all around and is a subtle way to help support and reinforce the message that you have, that this is a space that is welcoming to everyone. Any more questions from anyone?
I have one more, Jesse.
Sure.
So if I was wanting to learn how to be a positive ally, but I didn't really know what the language was, you addressed this earlier in the presentation. I felt like maybe I would struggle with that, or my behavior, or doing it wrong, perhaps. How can I really try to be an ally? What kind of skill set would someone need to just be a beginner?
Yeah, I would recommend just be curious, right? For example, if the letters that come up every year at Pride and you don't know what they mean, that's a quick Google for you
Right.
that allows you to then know going forward what that means and who that is meant to be. Yes.
I was just wondering, so I work in public relations for the MFRC. And one of the things that I noticed this year is, of course, there's apparently it's been around since 2021, but a new progressive pride flag. Are there any particular resources that you would recommend in terms of checking for current trends and stuff like that in various communities?
So a couple of things. One, I would always reference whichever group or organization is posting actively. So Youth Project is a local organization. They would be happy to answer that question. They would probably even give you a current flag.
Right. Yeah.
So that would be
Better than
what I
the
recommend.
Amazon.
Great. So is it inappropriate to carry on with a past flag?
I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
No. The current flag just recognizes some of the history that was not reflected in the original, which is what's behind me. There's a very important voice to the Pride movement from the States, Marsha P. Johnson, who was unfortunately pushed to the side because she was Black, she was trans. That seemed like a problem. And so the very first voices, unfortunately, that were actually taken seriously were cis and white. There's been an effort to kind of be more inclusive within our own movements. And just bear in mind, all of those letters are each of their own movement, but we are all part of the same community. We unfortunately all face the same kinds of discrimination. There's a great documentary or film coming out by the Obamas. I'm so excited about. I believe it's called Rusted. But of the, I was going to say that, but who supported Martin Luther King and all of his work that he did. But one of those voices was not recommended or welcomed as he was gay, and is survived by his husband. So getting to hear and learn that story, how he was, is something I'm really excited to see share.
It's different, it's interesting that various minorities can sometimes feel that their oppression is more significant than others' oppression.
Yes, or suddenly seem to forget what it feels like.
Right, yeah,
Yeah, it's really sad.
oppression's oppression.
Yeah. Well, once again, thank you all for being here. If you are in Halifax or within HRM, the Rainbow Bagels are on shelves currently. The Pete's for Teeth, the Ampersand Cafe, you're also welcome to order directly. There's information about that on my Instagram at Lots of Kindness. If you find me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to send you an order form. Jesse Nervais, again, at Lots of Kindness.
Well, Jesse, we really want to thank you for such a beautiful and awe-inspiring and educational and thought-provoking presentation. It really was wonderful. I think we can all agree, whether we're home or here in person, we really feel like we've really learned an awful lot from you through your words and your actions and all the wonderful things that you did to tell us about the importance of diversity and equity and inclusion, and also how important it is for all of us to have a really strong voice to be a really healthy ally. So thank you so much for your warmth and your enthusiasm with all of us this evening. Thank you. So on behalf of Melissa and I, we really would like to thank all of you for joining us at home or here in person. We hope that you learn the importance of being an ally by showing everyday kindnesses and respect to each other in an effort to grow in a more positive way. So let's be an agent of change and help each other feel included and valued, and so we can disrupt all of the discrimination in the world. Remember to embrace everyone and to be a really good, healthy ally. So thank you all very much for coming. Thank you all in person as well.
Here, just on this side, because I don't know if anybody really had a chance, just the way it's set up. You might not have got to see your beautiful smile as you were talking, so just to give a big old happy wave to everybody so they can see. Give the back. There you go.
All right, good night, everyone.
Awesome, so much.